Grace?
Mama, look, there's a little bit in there.
Okay, Lily.
Mama,
Is that you? Hey. I've never done a live before, so I'm just testing this out. If you have any questions about any books, feel free to ask. I think I might just read Harry Potter until anybody asks a question. You see, I've got the Sorcerer's Stone here. How's everybody doing today? It's extremely awkward. I've never done this before. Sure. Go ahead if you've got any questions, feel free. Okay, in the meantime, I'm just gonna read some of this. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Pivot Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal, thank you very much. They were the last people you'd expect to be involved in anything strange or mysterious, because they just didn't hold with such nonsense. Thanks a lot. I have no idea. I'm just testing it out as far as the question. I've been planning on trying to do a live for a while. My plan, I would love to do like a book club type of thing and just like go on here and talk about books like once a week. But I just wanted to see if anybody would be interested in that kind of thing. So it's just really a test run. So books are my passion. I like to read a lot. So I hope I can find some other people that are into that kind of thing and just start something like that. But if you have any questions about any kind of books, like a lot of times before I read a book, I like to do a lot of research and go on Goodreads and like read a bunch of reviews before I can commit to reading a book. So if you have any like questions about any books you've been planning on reading, I'd be glad to answer. Like I just recently read Once Upon a Broken Heart, the series, and I've read like the Inheritance Games and the Naturals books, and I really enjoyed those. Okay, let's see. I'm going to continue reading in the meantime. Let me see. Mr. Dursley was a director of a firm called Runnings, which made drills. He was a big, beefy man with hardly any neck, although he did have a very large mustache. Mrs. Dursley was thin and blonde and had nearly twice the usual amount of neck. See. Which came in very useful as she spent so much of her time craning over garden fences spying on the neighbors. The Dursleys had a small son called Dudley, and in their opinion there was no finer boy anywhere. The Dursleys had everything they wanted, but they also had a secret, and their greatest fear was that somebody would discover it. They didn't think they could bear it if anyone found out about the Potters. My children are in the background, so if you hear that, that's what that is. Okay, let me see. Do you read any self-development books? I know, honestly, I wish that I could have the bragging rights of saying I read like intelligent books, but pretty much what I read is fantasy. That's what I stick to. So I would like to venture out into stuff like that, but there's so many books on my list that I feel like if I could read all those books, then I could move on to other things. But I know that the list is going to be never ending. So, but if somebody could like recommend a book to me and I was convinced, I would definitely read it. But as of right now, I just stick to like fantasy and like mystery books, and just, if somebody says it's really good, then a lot of times I'll try to read it. I'm easily convinced, and for the most part, I just.
See that troll? Did you see he pushed out a blind girl on Walmart?
That's my sister in the background. She's embarrassed now. Anyways, thanks for subscribing. I don't know if she's making me feel so awkward because I can hear my voice in the background. She came in here. She's watching the live, but anyways, let me see. The House on Mango Street. What's that about? I've never heard of that book. I mean, like, I'm always open to different, all kinds of books. Like, I'm open to, I don't just, for the most part right now, I'm just sticking with fantasy and all that, but I mean, and I have a open mind that I would be willing to read other things, so I always enjoy reading different things. As far as my, reading journey, I guess you could say, I started out like in elementary school reading Nancy Drew books, and just that's really what I can remember the most. I read all those, and then in middle school I remember reading the Percy Jackson and some books like that. I can't. It's my memory's kind of fuzzy now. And then in high school, that's when I really like got like obsessed with reading, and I read like the Selection series and Red Queen. Trying to remember everything. There's one called Delirium, and there's a few books after that. I just can't remember everything, but there's a lot of books. I have it on my Goodreads, but I can't look at it because I'm using my phone, but I try to keep track of most things that I read. But it's then here recently I got into reading again a couple years ago. I took a break after having my kids because my time was so limited that I just didn't have the time to read, and then I got back into it. So I've been doing a lot of that. Okay, it's about a girl named Esperanza, and she hated her name and wanted to change it. She also hated her house and didn't have any friends. She was very, very poor, and it's just basically all about that. Okay, that's cool. I'll definitely go on Goodreads and look into it and add it to my Goodreads, my list. So it sounds interesting, so I want to look more into it. I remember there was one book that I read about basically vampires, and I couldn't remember for the life of me what the title was. I went on Reddit on a thread where they help you remember books if you describe the book and everything about it. And I think I can't remember what it was called now, but I think Jessica's Guide to Dating on the Dark Side. It was, I mean, it sounds crazy by the title, but it was just basically about this random girl just living a normal suburban life, and then people show up at her doorstep claiming that she's like related to royalty over in Romania, and that there's a vampire guy that she's arranged to be married to. And then the book just goes from there, and they're just basically living a normal life, being vampires and stuff. So read that like in middle school, and I couldn't remember, and I just wanted to remember what it was called, just because I don't know. I like to keep records of everything I read, just for the sake of knowing how many books I've read. So, is there any other books that anybody's interested in finding out about? There's there's a lot. Right now I'm reading I think it's called The Winter's Curse, and I have my Kindle here. Yeah, The Winter's Curse, and I'm like 78% of the way through with that, and it's pretty decent so far. It hasn't, like, on a scale of 1 to 5, I would say right now it's about a 3. I like it a lot, but it's like nothing that's amazed me yet. But sometimes it takes getting to the second book before it gets really good, because just now at 78%, the biggest part of the story is happening now. So far I'm going to continue reading unless it just gets to the point to where I don't like it anymore. So I want to read Defy the Night next. I haven't read that. And that's my baby here, if you hear him in the background. Trying to convince him to go back in there. He's about to be 2 in a few weeks.
I go.
So I guess he's just gonna hang out here for a minute. He's not doing anything, so it should be fine. Let's see, what's a book that you would recommend, because I want to start reading a lot more. What kind of books are you into? Do you like the fantasy genre, and like what kind of, I guess you could say, like, what tropes do you like, or have you done a lot of reading, just so I can kind of know where to start? I know I would say my first good series that I started on was The Selection. I mean, Percy Jackson was one big one that I started, but like what really got me into reading just like obsessively, I guess you'd say, or just frequently, is The Selection series. And now that I've read a lot more, I can see where it's more like it's hard to explain exactly, but like it's not as exciting as other books, but it's still like it's one of the first series that I've read, and it's like a comfort series to me. So I always like reread it over and over, even though it's not like as exciting as other books, but it's pretty good still. So have you ever heard of The Selection? It's by Kiera Cass, I believe, and it's really good though. I enjoy reading that. I've read it like 3 or 4 times already. Hold on, let me see if I can take care of him.
I go.
Okay. He wants to stay for now. I was trying to convince him
I go.
with some gummies.
I go. I
I
go.
never heard about it, but I'll try to get it. It's really good. Basically, it's about so in the land of Ilia, there's a kingdom, or I guess you could call it Ilia. I don't know the best way to pronounce it, but whenever the prince comes to age, they have a ceremony where they like choose 35 girls from around the kingdom, and I guess it's kind of like the Bachelor type thing, and they all so they choose the 35 girls and they bring them to the castle, and then through time there's an elimination process, like pretty much like one of the Bachelor TV shows, and so that's pretty much how it takes place. In the midst of all that, there's like a war going on with another place, and they're getting bombed and different things like that. And one of the girls that went in there, she didn't really want to go in there, but she basically made an agreement with her parents that she would, because they wanted her to have a better life and everything. So that's the girl that he is in love with, but she doesn't feel the same way, because at the same time that's going on, she was in a relationship with a guy that she was in love with, but he was in a lower case. There's a case system, the higher, the more wealthy you are, and the lower. The lowest was 8, and they're just as poor as it gets. He was in a 6, so he had like a servant life, and she was a 5. So she was a musician. They handle the arts, so they're artists and musicians. So if she were to marry him, her case would go down, and he didn't want that kind of life for her. So basically, he kind of pushed her into going to the selection also because he wanted her to have a chance at a better life. But it's really good. I'm sure I could put more detail into that, but that's kind of the general idea of it, and it's a really good book. I don't guess I need to spoil the ending of what happens, but it's definitely great, and the books aren't that thick. I don't know how many pages. I'd say like maybe 300-ish. So it's kind of there's I think there's 3 books, but then there's one more book that goes with their daughter, and it just continues with basically when she goes through the selection. But nobody who likes the selection cares for that book because she's kind of got a bad attitude, and they're trying to continue the series, and it's not going well. But the 3 books are great, and it's a read that would be great for a beginner because it's not extremely long. Because I know a lot of people who want to get into reading, they're kind of they don't want to they don't want to commit to a big book. Sorry about that. I'm trying to see if I can get him to go in there and play. His sister's in there watching TV, and they've been fighting a little bit, so he decided to come in here and see what I was. He's going in there with his aunt now. So the book, as far as the book goes, it is a really interesting book, and I think it would be great for starting out if you're into fantasy. And I guess you could say it's more of like romantasy, but it's a really good book. Okay, so is there any books that you've read that you want to talk about or that anybody wants to talk about? I'm open to, suggestions or discussing anything about books, or if you're kind of unsure about a book, if I've read it, I'd be glad to talk about it. So like I said, the winner's crime, let me see, or the winner's curse, I think is what it's called. There's 3 books in that series. I think it's the winner's curse. That's what it is. That's what I'm reading. Okay, so the book series I was just talking about, that was The Selection by Kiera Cass. And that's the one that I explained about, where it's kind of like The Bachelor. So it's really good, and it's like I said, I have the books in my room. If I should have prepared and brought them in here, but maybe in a second I can bring them in here and see. I would say they're like about that thick. I have paperback, but they're not like humongous books like that. So for getting this is a book I have reached, and that is a little bit more, I guess, like I could read this book in probably 2 to 2.5 days, but I would say that book is probably more like that. The Selection, it's a lot easier to read, not quite half, but maybe a third, well, maybe half, I don't know. This book is 510 pages, so I would say that The Selection is probably 300 pages, at least on the first. I can't remember how big the other ones are. I haven't looked at them in a while. So let's see. I've got a lot of books on my Kindle that I haven't read. I need to read Caraval because that's connected to Once Upon a Broken Heart. I think that one actually comes first, but I don't know, it didn't sound really interesting to me for a while, but I kept seeing it recommended and people talking about it. And then I read Once Upon a Broken Heart, and then I found out that they were connected, so now I have to read it. It's probably going to be one of my next ones, but I don't want to read it just yet because I've just read with I just read a book about some of the characters with this Once Upon a Broken Heart, so I kind of want to see something new for a while instead of just, continuing with the same thing. I've one called The Bear and the Nightingale. I haven't read that, but it's a national bestseller and it's supposedly a really good book. I want to read that soon because I've just heard it's great and I think it's going to be more like a classic. Hey, this is useless. I don't see what your name is. That's all I saw on there. Let's see. Another one, let's see, what is that? There's one that I've been seeing a lot that I'm really interested in reading. I can't remember what it's called right now. Let me see. I don't know if I have it on my Kindle. More people should be here. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate that. Honestly, I haven't gotten started very much. I'm really just doing this as a test run. Hey, thanks a lot. Chosen Warfare, that's my husband on here. He's coming on here to support me. My favorite animal, I don't honestly know if I have a favorite animal. I respect animals and nature and all that, but I'm not really passionate about animals, like crazy passionate, I guess, like having a lot of pets and stuff. But I don't know, like right off, I guess I could say I like deers seem like pretty peaceful animals, like Bambi and stuff, so maybe I could say that. Let's see. Um, Let me see if I can talk about another book on here. I wish I could remember that one book. There's one called The City of Bones. It's a huge series actually. I haven't read that, but I want to. I haven't I haven't read, let's see, the ACOTAR, and I haven't read there's another one that's really popular that I can't think of. I haven't read that. I don't know. I'm just kind of hesitant because I've heard that there's a lot of spice in those, and I'm not really into spice. I like to kind of keep it clean, keep it PG, I guess you could call it. But let's see. Okay, well, thanks a lot for watching, and I appreciate all the interaction and everything. Hope you have a great night. Let's see. I want to read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. It's easy to talk about what I haven't read because I have my Kindle and I have like my list of books I haven't read, and once I read a book, I usually delete it to keep storage. So, and then once I've read a book and I like it, I just get the physical copy to keep. And then if I want to reread it, I'll usually just do that. Let's see. Um, has anybody read the Dance of Thieves or The Vow of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson? I've read The Kiss of Deception. Okay, so that's a series. I think it's got 3 books in it. And this is like this is connected to that, but like the history before any of that happened. So I read The Kiss of Deception, and I haven't read The Dance of Thieves yet. It was kind of hard for me to go from reading, you read one book and you love the characters, and then you go to another book and it's like a whole new set of characters in that same world. It's kind of difficult to, adjust to that because, I don't know, you're just used to those regular characters that you've been reading about for so long. I've read Powerless and I think it's Powerless and Reckless. And I'm looking forward to the new book coming out in April. And we've only got a few weeks until that book comes out. Let's see. Well, if there's any questions, feel free to ask stuff. Let's see. If you have any books that you want to hear about, or my opinion on any books, or if you want to give your opinion, feel free to talk about it. I would like to turn this into like a book club thing where I go live like once a week and we talk about books and like, the details I'm not sure of, but it'd be nice because like I have so many questions about books. I do a lot of research to see if it's something I'd be interested in. And then it would seem like a great thing to come on here and like talk about the books I've read and then ask your opinions. And then you give me your opinions on books that you've read. So, like right now I'm reading The Winter's Curse, I think it's what it's called. And let's see. So far, it's pretty good. It's not like amazing, but it's like I would say a 3 out of 5 because I'm at 78% and all the exciting stuff is just now happening. So it's I'm kind of waiting for something big to happen, I guess you could say. But sometimes that happens in the second book. So I could just talk about the book I'm reading right now. Let's see if I can open up the actual book and give the actual description so that I don't miss anything. Let's see if I can open it up on Goodreads. Basically, it's about so there's a general's daughter and she goes to there's more to it than this, but there's a general's daughter and she goes to a slave auction and she ends up, and this isn't in like, this is fantasy between the king a kingdom called Ilya, but there was like a war where their people conquered the other people and then those people became slaves. But she's interested by this guy for some reason, and then she ends up buying him or purchasing him, and then he's just, you know, a normal like a worker and all that. He's like their blacksmith. But basically, so far what's happened is that he went undercover because he's trying to start a revolution to overthrow the other kingdom, and so in the meantime he's trying to get information out of her to overthrow the kingdom, and in the midst of all that, basically they're falling in love while all that's happening. So I just got to a point where she found out about it and things are happening with that. So let me see. So right now there's not a whole lot going on. Let me see. Let's see, I've been on here 27 minutes already. See, if there's any books that anyone's interested in knowing about, feel free to ask. Let me see. Has anybody read the, let me see, the Caraval books? I just read Once Upon a Broken Heart, and I haven't started on Caraval yet, but for a while I wasn't interested in it until I read Once Upon a Broken Heart, and then I found out they were connected, so now I'm interested in reading it because it's some of the same characters and you kind of get more of a backstory. So that sounds like it would be interesting, but I haven't started it yet because I wanted to take a step away from that book for a minute and kind of read something different before I got back into that same world. Because I just wanted something different, which I really, really liked Once Upon a Broken Heart. I would say it's probably one of my favorite series now. So before, the Selection was always probably my favorite because even though there are books where a lot more action is happening, I really enjoyed that because it was for some reason like a comfort book to me and I would read that. But now I would say the Selection will always hold a place for me, but I would say Once Upon a Broken Heart has probably, as of right now, taken the position as being my first favorite. It's the best I've read in a while anyway. So as of right now, that's I just love that there was so much going on constantly. It was like always something happening, so many plot twists and turns and like just things constantly. It was never boring at any point, and that's what I really enjoyed about it. Okay, I might have to come back later because it looks like somebody just got here. I may have to take a break and come back in just a minute, so I will see y'all. Somebody just came to my driveway. I'll see y'all.